అందరికీ నమస్కారములు. Today 22nd July 2023 is a good day for us that we are going to have another webinar from Dr. K. Anandarao garu. Today's subject is Arvindarao garu. Today's topic is Indic religions, compare and contrast with Abrahamic religions. We'll start the session with Vande Mataram. After that Pradhana, then I will introduce the speaker to all of you. Then we'll hand over the platform to the speaker. Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram. Sujalam Sufalam Malayaj Sitalam Sasyamalam Mataram Vande Mataram Subrajosna Pulakitayamini Pullakusumita Trumadala Sobhini Suhasini Sumadhura Bhashini Sukhadam Varadam Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram Vande Mataram. I request A.H.P. Rao garu to chant Pradhana, please.
Hare Om. Sarvebhyah namaskaraha. Sarvebhyah swagatam vyaharami. Pradhamam dhyanam. Ekam nimisham. Pradhanantaram trivaram. Omkaram. Pradhanantaram pradhana. Gananam tva ganapati gum havamahe kavim kavena upavasravastamam jyeshtarajam brahmanan brahmanaspada anasrunvannuti visseda sadhanam Om Mahaganadhipataye namaha Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebhirvajinivati Dhinamatriyavatu Om Mahasaraswatye namaha Harihi Om Asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mruchorma amritangamaya Om Shanti 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 Matrudevo Bhava Pitrudevo Bhava Acharya Devo Bhava Atithi Devo Bhava Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Harihi Om Vagardha Vipasamprutau Vagardha Pratipattaye Jagatah Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau Hari Om Jnananandamayan Devam Nirmala Spatika Krutim आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे। नमस्कारः सर्वेभ्यः, नमस्कारः सर्वेभ्यः, स्वागतं व्याहरामि। धन्यवाद.
ధన్యవాదములండి. Now I will introduce the speaker to all of you. It is my privilege to introduce Dr. K. Arvinda Rao Garu, IPS. He is retired as Director General of Police of United Andhra Pradesh State. His rich and vast experience in policing and administration as a top cop and anti-national and anti-Naxal expert, Dr. Arvinda Rao played an important role in effectively dealing with left-wing extremism in AP. During his distinguished career in police, security and safety departments, Dr. Arvinda Rao served as Additional Director General of State Intelligence Department, the Additional Commissioner of Police, Hyderabad, Inspector General of Police, Greyhounds, and IGP, Crime Investigation Department. He also holds a PhD in Sanskrit and has authored several books on Sanatana Dharma. Renowned for his sincerity and simplicity, Dr. Arvinda Rao developed a keen interest in studying Sanatana Dharma during his service, and this led to pursue a master's in Sanskrit. Under aegis of his gurus, Padma Shri Pullela Ramachandru Ji, a Mahopadhyaya, and Shri Tattva Vidhananda Swamiji. Dr. Arvinda Rao developed a deep understanding of Sanatana Dharma, Vedanta, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras, and Bhashyams. Post his retirement, Dr. Arvinda Rao has authored several books in Telugu, English, besides the book on analysis of Jnanam in Upanishads in Sanskrit. He has also adeptly woven ancient Vedic wisdom with practical knowledge and rendered several online lectures on various subjects relating to Advaita, Shankara Bhashyam, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, to name a few. Dr. Arvinda Rao has been the recipient of several awards and was also conferred with the honorary title of Vachaspati by Rashtriya Vidyapitham, a deemed university of Government of India, for his valuable service to the field of Sanskrit studies. So this is the second webinar we are going to have, and in spite of his busy schedule, he has agreed to come and give us this lecture, and he has to leave this seminar at 5:30 to attend another function. So therefore, we will stop asking questions at 5:25. Thank you very much, and may I request Arvinda Rao Garu to take over and conduct the webinar, please.
Om Namo Gurubhya. My namaskars to everyone. So last time we had one seminar mostly on the Bhagavad Gita, and what are the important things which we have to note in the Bhagavad Gita. Today also some of the points may be repeated, but from a different point of view. Today it is a sort of comparative study of what our texts say. Our text means not only Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is actually a summary of all the Upanishads. We all know that. I think most of us, it's a very primary thing. Most of us know that. Bhagavad Gita means that is a summary of all the Upanishads. That is the doctrine of Vedanta. So Vedanta, this on one side, and what the Abrahamic religions say on the other side. So these two things are essential even for our youngsters, not only for us. We as slightly elderly people, we are supposed to know this. When we were children, there was no, when we were young, when we were boys, either studying in the college or whatever, wherever, there was no pressure. There was no peer pressure on us about which religion was great, etc. But nowadays, there is so much of discussion, even in the colleges. Even in the colleges, our children are exposed to this propaganda. My religion is great and your religion is something which is inferior, etc. So our kids, that means college going students, particularly in America, even the school going kids, my grandsons, there, my grandson, one chap is coming to 9th class, so the 10th. So that boy, my daughter is worried about the social studies there, because in that social studies, there is a very, very bad portrayal, negative portrayal of Hinduism. So we have to strengthen our kids by giving knowledge. Knowledge is the only thing which gives us strength. So that is from that I will start. This comparative study is very, very essential for all of us. So then first I will go point by point, one, two, three, four, without elaborate, without much elaboration. The first thing I will, on one side I'll put Abrahamic religions, and on the other side I'll put the Indic religions in general and Hinduism in particular. By Indic religions, I refer to Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and also Sikhism. All the four are Indic religions. And all the four, they are based on philosophical thought. If you see Buddhism, there is an extensive philosophical studies. Jainism, extensive philosophical studies. Sikhism, of course, it was born at the time of war, very, very turbulent period. But they have adopted the same philosophy of the Vedanta, the same philosophy of the Upanishads. They have adopted Hinduism in a slightly different form. They have adopted. So what all is told about Hinduism, it applies to Sikhism also. So Abrahamic religions on one side and the Indic religions on the other side, particularly Hinduism, I will try to explain. So the first point which we have to see is that the Abrahamic religions, they are based on a belief system. Number one is belief based. That is, one particular person at a particular point of time, that is a particular point of time in history, he says, yes, I have got some communication from God, and he claims to have the whole truth with him. And then he comes out and says, yes, this is what is the truth, and you have to follow. And luckily for him, he finds some people. And gradually it goes on spreading by virtue of some propaganda, maybe persuasion, maybe force, maybe violence, whatever. In the Abrahamic religions, there is one Abrahamic religion, that is Jews. I am not talking about that. I am talking about the two aggressive Abrahamic religions, that is Christianity and Islam, which have for policy to dominate the whole world. Of course, the God of the Jews, he did not say that. God of the Jews did not command them to go and spread the message all over the world and then conquer all the world, etc. The Jewish God did not say, but the Christian God said, and the Islamic God said that. And fortunately or unfortunately, our gods did not say that. So anyway, Abrahamic religions are belief-based, whereas our Indic religions, particularly Hinduism, is something which is based on philosophical inquiry. How? That is because the philosophical inquiry is all contained in the Upanishads. And these Upanishads are actually contemplations by sages who contemplated on what is the reality, what is the ultimate reality. So if you want to examine the external world, or if you want to examine the internal world, you have to contemplate, you have to think about it. So basing on that contemplation, they had vision of certain truths. According to tradition, the Vedas were revealed to the Rishis. Anyway, whether we accept it or not, they had such a revelation of certain truths, some eternal truths. So that is how we see that. So this inquiry based, there are questions, there are debates in the Upanishads, there are questions, there are debates, there is a student, there is a teacher, the student keeps asking questions, or debates in books like this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, where the debates go on between Yajnavalkya and other people. So this is the product of a collective thinking of several sages. And it goes on and on and on. It is not as though there is a full stop for that. For inquiry, there is no full stop. For belief, there is a full stop. And in the case of belief, there is no room for debate. But here, if you see Shastra Charcha, our own Shastra tradition, there is eternal debate, unending debate. And one important point which we have to note in the very beginning is that the Abrahamic religions, the two Abrahamic religions, they rely on one book and one book alone. Whereas we have got several texts, of course, all these Upanishads, Vedas, and then Smriti, all these Smriti texts, etc. But the first thing we have to note is that our sages have spoken at two levels. In the Abrahamic religions, they speak only at one level. One level means this is the only book. Yes, God is somebody who is sitting there, and there is a devil who is sitting below, in the hell, etc. That is something which is absolutely no question about it. But here in Hinduism, there are hundreds and hundreds of books. That is because we are speaking at two levels. That is, one at the level of a philosopher and one at the level of an ordinary man. At the level of ordinary man, we have got all these Itihasa, Purana, etc., etc. I think last time also I told one line, Itihasa, Purana, Vyam, Vedam, Samukha, Brahmayet. That is at the common man's level. They have given Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, etc., etc., and also various Puranas. But at the level of thinker, a questioner, a person who is a seeker, we have got higher texts, that is the Upanishads. So this is the first thing we have to tell our kids also, because if we say that God is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, God is something which is of the nature of pure consciousness, etc., then he will come out with some text. What is that series? That Amara Chitra Katha series or some other series, saying that, oh, there is one Krishna here, there is one Rama here. What about this? That is at the common man's level. Whatever is told at the common man's level is totally different from what is told at the higher level. So then, this is the first point we have to tell our people. At the common man's level, okay, there is somebody, there is a Vishnu, there is a Shiva, there is a Rudra, there is somebody else, there is Shakti, Durga. All these things are there at the common man's level. But at the higher level, there is only one reality, and that one reality is defined as infinitely existing consciousness. I think I told this also. Whereas for the Abrahamic religions, God is a person. He is a male who is an elderly male who is sitting somewhere in heaven, and then there is an opponent to him, etc., etc. And according to Abrahamic religions, there is a time, there is a particular time of creation, that is 4004 BC. If you want to know what is the source, you can refer to what is called Ushar chronology. USSHER, Ushar chronology. He was a famous bishop under whose leadership many bishops congregated, I think in the 16th or 17th century, and then they studied the whole the Bible. And for them, Bible, every word of it is true. It is God's word. So they said, yes, this is the only truth. And then they established that it was in sometime in September 4004 BC. Whereas, according to Indic religions, we have got, if you see Panchangam, if we see our Panchangam, Srushtyabdaha, that word says Srushtyabdaha, some 8 billion years, this particular Srushti, some 8 billion years ago it happened, etc. And this Srushti is not the only Srushti. There are any number of cycles of creation. And this cycle, when did it start? It is Anadi. Anadi means something which is beginningless. If you say that God created earth or made this earth, it is a one-time creation. From the point of view of Christians, it is a one-time creation. And all the souls are also independent. All the souls are absolutely independent. And once they are created, they will be there either in heaven or hell eternally. So this creation, if we really created in 4004 BC, what was he doing till then? A question arises. What was he doing till then? So that is, this question incidentally arises in one of the commentaries of Shankaracharya in 13th chapter under one sloka. Shankaracharya says, if you say that God created at a particular time, what was he doing till then? And he was not God at all, because there was nothing to rule over. You can't call him Lord, because there was nothing to lord over, he says. Ishwarasya ishitavya bhavat, Ishwarasya anishwaratva prasangaha, he says. So that will arise. So then, according to Abrahamic religions, God created in 6 days. We all know that God created in 6 days, and on the 7th day he took rest, etc. Whereas in our case, it is not as though God created. This whole thing is a manifestation. What we see as creation is a manifestation in that consciousness which has been eternally there. What is that manifestation? If you see, for example, this Taittiriya Upanishad, this Atmana Akasha Sambhutaha, Akasha Vayoragnihi, Agnerapah, Adya Prithvi, Prithivya, Oshadhayaha. So there is a sequence. There is a sequence in which the 5 elements, that is Prithivya, Pastejo, Vayura, Akasha, they manifest. And there is a sequence in which they also mix. Initially, they appear in what is called a pure form. They are called tanmatra. That is the pure form where they are not mixed. When they get mixed, then only they become visible. Then only they become rather known to the senses. So that is why that is what is called all these five elements. They come together and then they become air, they become water, they become fire, etc. So these five elements, they are formed like that. And from this five elements only, all this plant kingdom came first. That also is there. Oshadhi, that Prithivya, Oshadhaya, Prithvi, from Prithvi, Oshadhaya, that is the plant kingdom came first. Then again, from plant kingdom became the food for all the living beings. And the plant kingdom itself is a all the living beings are actually a modification of that food plus consciousness. In fact, this body-mind complex is a sort of complex of the consciousness and also the jada, that is sentient and insentient. So our people have told in such minute terms, and then there are again debates. It is not as though what I am saying now is accepted by all schools of Indian philosophy. Again, they are debated whether there is only one entity that is called consciousness, or whether there are two entities, that is consciousness and also matter. And again, when there are two, all these souls, all these individual souls, are they different, or is it only one reflection, like sun's light falling equally on all the on the entire world? So there are debates like that, and there is a room for all these debates. So when somebody says this, somebody says that, but we have never killed each other, one another on these things, and we never tried to. We only argued, yes, debated. Even today, if you go to places, all these peetams, if you go to a Madhva Peetham, he will be telling his own philosophy, and then he will be questioning all what all Shankara said. And if you go to Shankaracharya Peetham, they will be questioning what Madhva said, or Madhvacharya said, or Ramanujacharya said. So that goes on. So with all these debates, ours is a very, very lively tradition where where we are basing our entire argument on that philosophical thought. So this is one thing which we have to see. Then God, as I said, is not an individual who is sitting in heaven. It is called Satyam Jnanam Anantam, that is infinitely existing consciousness. And of course, in our concept, in our tradition, there is no concept of devil. Because if there is also God and there is also devil, then God, however great, however powerful he may be billion times stronger than some Schwarzenegger or some other man. But then he is a person who is a limited entity, who becomes a limited entity sitting somewhere in heaven, not connected, not bothered about, or rather, he is still not having control over the devil. Whereas in our tradition, there is no concept of devil. Why? That is how is evil explained? Evil is explained by saying that what all we call as good, evil, etc., they are all from one entity only. All that in that manifestation called Prakriti. In that Prakriti, there are three strands, that is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. These three strands are there. And this Rajoguna and Tamoguna, when they mix up in a particular way, then this Asuras and Rakshasas, they form. There is a small difference between Asura and Rakshasa. Asura are those who simply enjoy all sensual pleasures. Asushu ramante iti asuraha. Asu means all these indriyas. Indriyeshu ramante iti asuraha iti. Rakshasa, that means they are basically people who revel and then who binge drinking and making merry, etc., etc. Whereas Rakshasas, they become Rakshasas when they hurt other people, when they beat up other people for their own enjoyment, for their own survival, or for their own pleasure. They beat up other people, they indulge in violence, then they become Rakshasas. So that distinction is there. All these things, they are in the nature. They are all part of Sattvam, Rajas, Tama iti. All these things, Matta eva eti tan vidhi, says Krishna in the Gita. Matta eva eti tan vidhi means all these things, they are from me only. That means in the Prakriti, there are three elements, that is Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, which is creating the whole diversity, which we are seeing in creation. So this is how that evil is explained. And these three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, they keep on, they are in eternal friction with one another. Sattva wants to dominate, Rajas wants to dominate, and Tamas wants to dominate. Quite often, this Rajas and Tamas, they dominate Sattva guna. And that is why we see that good people are few in number, and the ambitious and then the evil people, they are slightly more in number. But then again, when the balance is off, then again there is some divine intervention and which we call avatara. And then the sattva guna is also restored to its position. So that is what we see. And in the Abrahamic religions, another next point is there is a commandment. There is a command, not commandment. There is a command to convert the whole earth into that particular religion only. It is there in the Old Testament. If we see in the Old, no, it's not in the Old Testament. Of course, the Old Testament also is there. Yeah, Old Testament, that Deuteronomy, and other places it is there. And in the New Testament, of course, they say that Christ himself had said, after the resurrection of Christ, he himself has said, they say. So, but then, of course, in Islam, it is very, very clear. Islam, God says, yes, you have to go and then you have to convert. And if they don't believe, if they don't accept you, you can use all types of violence, all degrees of violence, etc. So he says, so there is a command, except in Judaism, as I said. But here in Indic religions, there is no such command. There is no such command. There is no command that we have to go and convert the whole world. Then this freedom of religion is one thing which we have to tell our people. This freedom of religion is something which does not exist. Freedom of religion means you can worship any god, you can worship God in any form. That sort of freedom is not there at all. That is, you have to worship this God alone, and what all you call other gods, they are all forms of devil, they say. Whereas in our case, you can visualize this God in any form. This I told in the last session also. A person, you can visualize this reality in any form. You can visualize it in the form of Vishnu, you can Shiva or Durga, whatever form, and you can worship. And you can worship either, having a mental picture of that deity, or having a physical picture of that deity in the form of a mantra, in the form of a yantra, in the form of a yantra, in the form of an idol, in whatever form. You can have it, and then you can contemplate on that, you can meditate on that, and you can worship it. So this sort of freedom is not there anywhere. And Krishna, in fact, goes to the extent of saying, Ye Pyanya Devata Bhakta Yajante Shraddhayanvita. I think it is 9-23, I think. Ye Pyanya Devata Bhakta. Even if you are worshipping any other god, I am not bothered. Whereas Christian God says and Islamic God says, Christian God says, I am a jealous God. Islamic God says, not only jealous, but you go and thrash him. Whereas our God says, no, you can worship any other God. It doesn't matter. All these things come to one reality, he says. So this is one thing which we have to see. And one accusation one accusation which these people make, Abrahamic religions make, is about polytheism. They call Hindus as polytheists, and then they think that monotheism is a very great virtue. And by monotheism, what do they mean? Monotheism, of course, they say it is true that there is only one God for the whole universe. There is no doubt about it. But then they say, yes, our own God is the only, that is the true God. If you worship reality as only one God with any other name, that is wrong. No other name should be had. Only one name, our own name. For example, in the case of Islam, the particular tribe to which Muhammad belonged, that particular tribal god was Moon. So that Moon, he took it. Allah is actually the moon god. So that moon god, he said he is the supreme god. And then, okay, then that is the reason why they have this crescent moon, I say, in their flag. So this moon god. And Yehovah is the Christian god. And I'm not sure, I have forgotten what it is, but then that is also a particular god, a tribal god, a particular tribe. So these tribal gods, they elevated to the level of the supreme god. Whereas in our case, it is not something like that. It is basically pure philosophical thinking. And that's and they said, what did the rishis say? Yes, okay, if you are worshipping Vishnu, you worship Vishnu as supreme. If you are a worshipper of Shiva, you worship Shiva as that supreme reality. And if you are worshipping Durga, you worship Durga as that supreme reality. So they harmonized various traditions. And they did not kill. So what our youngsters should know, if somebody says you have got too many gods, why are we having too many gods? That is because we did not kill them. We did not kill them. We have not eliminated them. Because when Christianity came and when King Constantine accepted Christianity, and when Christianity got the support of the king, then they went on destroying all the temples, all the Roman temples, etc. And then slowly and slowly they spread to the whole of Europe, and then almost many places in the world. And Islam did the same. When Islam came, then in his own lifetime, he destroyed whatever religions were there in the entire area, and then he occupied the whole of Saudi Arabia and also spread slightly beyond that. So, but then it is not like that in the case of Hinduism, and we are having polytheism only because we did not kill gods. This is what we have to say. Then another point is the Abrahamic religions, they hate idolatry. They hate idolatry. They think that we are only worshipping a sort of wooden carving, or we are worshipping a sort of stone, vigraham. So they think that we are worshipping a particular vigraham only. But then there is a lot of philosophy behind that vigraham. There is a lot of symbolism behind that vigraham. If you are worshipping Durga, there is a particular symbolism for Durga. If you are worshipping Lalita, there is a particular symbolism for Lalita. There is a particular symbolism for Vishnu, some other symbolism for Shiva. So if we want to know the symbolism, we have to slightly verify the concerned Puranas. For example, Shiva's symbolism. Where do we find, for example, in the episode in which that Parvati replies to that Maya Vatu? If we are all familiar with the story of Shiva and Parvati, how Shiva was doing, he was performing tapas, he was in the Himalayas, and Parvati was serving him. And at that time, all this Manmatha goes and then shoots an arrow, etc. We all know that story. And then Shiva burns that Manmatha. Thereafter, Parvati also does tapas. She also performs tapas. Why? Because by doing tapas, she has to become equal to Shiva. It is not as though by her physical attractive ability, by her physical attractions, she should not, I mean, if Shiva falls for the physical attraction, then what is the difference between Shiva and all other people? But she also has to perform tapas and then grow to the level of that Shiva. And then Shiva wants to test her. And then Shiva comes in the form of a brahmachari, and then he puts some questions. Oh, what is this Shiva? Is such a person who is somewhere always lying in smashana. And then he is somebody who is traveling by that bull, etc., etc. Then Shiva's symbolism, she explains. So if we want to know the symbolism of Shiva, we have to read that. If you want to know the symbolism of Durga or Lalita, why is Lalita sitting on Lord Shiva? Lord Shiva symbolizes Shuddha Chaitanya. And that Shuddha Chaitanya manifests as this whole universe. Shuddha Chaitanya has a Shakti. That Shakti is manifesting as the whole universe. So that Lalita sitting on this Shiva is a symbolism. That is, this whole Shakti is something which is dependent on which is the Adhishthanam or the substratum for this whole Shakti is that pure consciousness. So this is, we have to see. So like that, you can see the symbolism. So it is not as though we are foolishly worshipping all these idols. There is a story, there is a symbolism, there is an idea of that particular God. And when we are doing upasana of that God, we are doing it with the full knowledge of it. Upasana does not mean simply chanting some shloka, simply chanting some mantra. Upasana, we are supposed to know it. We are supposed to know Jnatva Karmani Kurvita, say the Upanishads. That is, when we are doing this Upasana, we have to know, we have to understand what we are doing, we have to understand the symbolism, and we have to contemplate on that. So that is how this idol is an aid to meditation. It is not as though we are worshipping some stone sculpture or some wooden carving or anything. It is a sort of aid to contemplation. Then in the Abrahamic religions, we know that I have referred to some of these philosophical things. But then if we see the sociological things also, then what do they say? Then why in the process of invasion, there is a concept called mal-e-ganimat. Mal-e-ganimat means when you overpower an enemy, you have got all the powers to kill, you have got all the powers to take their properties, you can destroy the property, you can occupy their properties, you can take away their women, and those women can be treated as sex slaves. And if we read the story of Prophet Muhammad, not story, if we read the biography of Prophet Muhammad from their own sources, from their own sources, if we read the biography of Prophet Muhammad, then we will know all these details. If we do not know the biography of Prophet Muhammad, then kindly, my request is that kindly get hold of those books, and then I'll just in 1 minute, I forgot to show those books. I'll just in 1 minute, I'll come back and show those books. I'm sorry I got up in the middle because I just wanted to show these books. For example, these books, they are by a professor, an American professor. He is a professor in physics, who after that twin blast, that 9/11 blast, he wanted to seriously study Islam, and then he spent from 2002 to for about 20 years he studied, and then he started one institute called Center for the Study of Political Islam, CSPI, Center for the Study of Political Islam internationally. And then his name is Bill Warner. Kindly note this, Bill Warner. If you have not known this name, I strongly say that you please take hold of his books, because he quotes from the very sources. He says, he challenges and says, I am not saying anything which is not there in the text. What are the sources for Islam? And from those sources only, he says, this is another text, a self-study course in political Islam. It is very essential. And this is 2-hour Quran. This is very, very essential. So like that, in fact, I got hold of these books when I went to America about 2 years ago. Particularly, I strongly recommend this Life of Prophet Muhammad, and also all these books. I strongly recommend. Kindly get hold of these books, particularly those who are having girl children. But if you are having a daughter, there is no other escape. You have to jolly well read about Sharia. You have to jolly well know about Prophet Muhammad's life, so that the girl will not be, suddenly get attracted somewhere. So this is the sort of advice I can give. So, but in this in Abrahamic religions, this is a policy. Sex slaves is a policy. In the name of God, a person can rape a woman. In the name of God, a person can kill a person. So, in fact, we all know that in Hinduism, it is something which is unthinkable. It is unthinkable to take women as sex slaves when you have defeated people. Then again, then what is the nature of a highly religious person in Christianity or Islam? Particularly in Islam, if we see, what is the core, personality of a believer, core personality of a great devotee? So he will be a great fundamentalist. His idea is to spread the message in any form. And what about our system? In Vedanta, what is it we see? In Vedanta, what we find is, Krishna says, Adveshta Sarvabhutanam Maitra Karuna Evasha, etc., etc. My devotee is somebody who does not hate anybody. My devotee is somebody who is compassionate to everyone. Sarvabhutanam, all the beings, not only human beings, but all the living beings. And then Samaha Sarvabhuteshu, Atmaupamyena Sarvatra. Atmaupamyena Sarvatra means one has to compare, or rather equate. When I am dealing with some person, I have to deal with him as though I deal with myself, so that I don't do any harm to myself. So similarly, I should not do any harm to the other person. So Atmaupamyam it is called, putting ourselves in his place. Atmaupamyam. In English, if we want to say simply, putting myself in his place and then doing it. So these are the statements which we see, that is seeing divinity in all. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu. The meaning of samam in several places in Gita is that reality, that one reality, which is there in all the beings. So this is one point. And in the Abrahamic religions, what is the highest goal of human life? We have got these 4 purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, etc. Then what is there? What is our highest goal? Our highest goal is have dharma, artha, kama. This artha and kama are sandwiched between dharma and moksha. That is, when a person attains artha and kama, through the process of dharma. So it has to be, that filter of dharma is there. Dharma has to filter these things called artha and kama. So one is going through the filter of artha and kama, and then only he can go to what is called moksha. So this starting with dharma, you enjoy artha in accordance with dharma, enjoy kama in accordance with dharma. Only then you are eligible to be to study the Vedanta. Till that time, you are not eligible to study Vedanta. We can study Vedanta intellectually, that's a different thing. But if you want to be a seeker, if you want to be on the path of jnana, then one has to be on the path of dharma to start with. And then moksha is, what is moksha? Moksha is not as though you go to some place called heaven and then do some bhajan of Lord Vishnu or Lord Shiva. But then moksha is, you become godlike. Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. Our Upanishads repeatedly say, Brahma Veda Brahmaiva Bhavati. That is, the one who knows Brahma becomes Brahma. And then every day during Sandhya Vandan also we say the same thing. During Sandhya Vandan, Brahmaiva Sambrahma Veda Udyantam Astayantam Adityam Abhidhyayan Kurvan Ram Vano Vidwan Sakalam Bhadramashute Asavadityo Brahmeti Brahmaivasam Brahmaivasam, being a Brahma, then he realizes he is a Brahma. Brahmaivasam Brahma. Suddenly that mantra. Okay. That Brahmaivasam. Apyati. That is, he being Brahma, he attains Brahma. Means what does it mean? He realizes it is not as though he is getting something new. He is realizing, yes, I am not different from that Brahma. I am not different from that supreme reality. That not only when I say Aham Brahmasmi, it is not an egotistical statement. It is a statement that my personality has become obliterated. My personality has gone. Brahmaivasam Brahma Pyeti Evam Veda. That is the mantra. Brahmaivasam Brahma Pyeti Evam Veda. So anyway, when I say Aham Brahmasmi, my ego is obliterated. I am no longer a person. I am no longer some Aravindra. I am this. My social identity is totally gone. My social identity is merged in the identity of Brahma. Not only when I look at somebody, even my former enemy, I have to see him as that manifestation in that Brahma only, and treat him like I treat myself. So this is our philosophy. Our philosophy does not teach hate. This is one thing which we have to very clearly tell our kids. Whereas in the case of Abrahamic religions, you are either here or there. If you are not with me, you are my enemy. So if you are a believer, you are with us. If you are not a believer, you are our enemy. So, and then that enemy, naturally, all that hate and all those things, they follow. And so highest goal in our case is not heaven. Heaven is actually a smaller goal. In fact, in all our texts, in all our stories, we see that heaven is a smaller goal. And heaven, it is something which is impermanent also. The person goes to heaven and comes back. Person goes and comes back. Whereas moksha is something that is where the linga sharira gets dissolved. The linga sharira gets dissolved. When you go to heaven, the linga sharira is still there. And again comes back and gets a sthola sharira. But then in moksha, there is no such thing. So this is our saying. And where does it say that Jiva is God? In the case of Abrahamic religions, Jiva is always a servant of God. And in the case of Vedanta, in the case of our text, Jiva is actually, he is God, and that God, supreme being. And then he has not realized that he is the supreme reality. So that is what is our approach. So this is again, we have to tell our kids. Then some more political things, if we see, in the Abrahamic religions, as I said, when you say that you have to spread this message all over the world, then it is also associated with political power. It is also associated with imperialism. So that is the one thing which we see in the present world also. There is imperialism and religion, they are going together. If you see right from the time of the Islamic invasion, religion and imperialism, they have moved together. When Christianity came also, if we take the case of Francis Xavier, who was one of the first people who came to India, and those Portuguese people, and when he landed in Goa, he had some debates with the local Brahmins there. So these Brahmins must have asked him, what is your Brahma? What is your reality? Is he Nimitta Karanam or Upadana Karanam? Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. These are concepts which are not there at all anywhere in the Abrahamic religions. Abrahamic religions, they only have what is the theology. Yes, God is there, God is like this, God said like this, God said like this. But then there is no enquiry into the nature of God. If we say that God is the cause for everything, what type of cause it is? Suppose what are the causes? If we want to explain this cause, suppose gold is there. Gold is the cause, and all the ornaments are the effects. So all cause and all these things are the effects. Suppose we say that and gold is called what is called upadana karana, or the material cause, and all these effects are called the effects karyam. It is all called karyam. And if there is a god, or rather the goldsmith, goldsmith is what is called the nimitta karana. He is the maker. Goldsmith is the maker. Gold is the material cause, and earth or human beings, they are the karyam or the products. Then there is what is called a nimitta karanam and upadana karanam. There are two types of karanam we see. Nimitta karanam is God, that is the instrumental cause, and upadana karanam is the material cause. If you ask all these things to a Christian or an Islamist, he cannot understand. And ultimately Vedanta says, it is not as though God has he has taken some lump of some material and then created the whole universe. If you say like that, then God becomes a person. If you say that God took some material and created this, that means God is different, this material is different, and which means that God is again a very limited person. You say whether he sits in heaven or whatever, he's a limited person. Then how to solve this? God alone is what we call God or consciousness alone is manifesting. So in a different way, they say abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. It is absolutely, there is no, the same thing is nimitta karanam, the same thing is upadana karanam. And what is the status? What is the degree of reality of what we see? So that is called ontology. So if you talk about epistemology and ontology to these people of Abrahamic religion, they have absolutely no idea about it. So when this fellow, Francis Xavier came to Goa, landed in Goa and debated with these people, he was confounded by these questions. And then he wrote a letter to the then Prince of Portugal, saying that there is a very, very vicious sect called Brahmins here, and unless we eliminate these Brahmins, you cannot establish our religion here. That letter, it seems, it is still there. In fact, this was quoted by one eminent professor called S.N. Balagangadhara. S.N. Balagangadhara in one of the meetings. In fact, in his talk, you can find it on the YouTube also. In his talk on World Hindu Congress, there was a World Hindu Congress meeting in Delhi. In that meet, in fact, I also attended. So there, in fact, I asked him also, where is this letter? He says this is quoted by one Western writer in 3 volumes called Asia in the Making of West. This 3-volume history of Western world, Asia in the Making of West. You can note down. And in the first volume, he refers to this letters of Francis Xavier. Francis Xavier seems to have written to that Portugal prince, saying that this vicious sect called Brahmins have to be eliminated if we have to establish our religion. So the same thing is being followed by all other people right now. Even now, whether it is Kashmir or wherever, the same thing is followed by Christianity, the same thing is followed by Islam. So this is one thing which we have to see. This religion and imperialism, they are moving together. They have always moved together. If you see their own internal wars, that is crusades, religion and imperialism, they move together. Whereas in the case of Indic religions or Hinduism, these two are unconnected. And if there are certain random fights between Shaivas and Vaishnavites, sometime in 14th century and later, that is because of foolishness and ignorance. That is because of the Upanishadic philosophy was forgotten by that time. So long as the Upanishadic philosophy was dominant in society, these things never happened. But when the Upanishadic society became weak, then Shaiva, they said, oh, we are great. Then Vaishnava said, yeah, we are great. So this sort of division between Shaiva and Vaishnava, it is not there in Vedanta, whereas it is there, it has come about because of our own ignorance. So this is, but Siddhanta, our doctrine is that there is no such division. Then The Abrahamic religions do not realize the law of the land. They don't not realize, they don't recognize the law of the land. They, according to them, their own, this is the law. This is Sharia law, that is the law. So there is no other law. But then they do accept law as long as they are weak. This is also there. Sharia law, if you see, and if you read the Prophet Muhammad's life and also about Islam, then we clearly see that they follow a particular pattern. That is, so long as you are weak, you try to say befriend, you try to be good, and then you try to befriend, and then you try to slightly, slowly, and slowly you try to infiltrate various sections, and then try to influence. And then over a period, then when your population grows, then you start making some small demands. Then you make use of the same system. Suppose we are all in a democracy. And in fact, I have long experience in handling these Naxalites also. Exactly the same policy is followed by Naxalites also. What do they do? When they are weak in a particular area, they do befriend. They do come, they do visit villages, they sing songs, and then they do befriend people, and then they try to solve some small issues. And if there is a village bully, then they go and beat up that bully so that all of the villagers they become friendly. So like that, the Naxalites also they follow a policy of slowly and slowly capturing various things, capture villages and then capture towns. So that's what Mao said. He also used a term called protracted war. So that protracted war is precisely what the Abrahamic religions are doing. And what is going on in Manipur also is an example of that protracted war. So over a period, they have got a critical number. Once that critical number is reached, then they become, they show their real face, and then they become violent. So that thing that they don't recognize the law of the land, that is one feature. Whereas in Hinduism, it is not like that. The law of the land is totally different, and we have nothing to do with the law of the land. Your only concern is about your own internal purity. When you are reading Gita, when you are reading Lalita Sahasranama, when you are reading Parayanam of Ramayanam, you are doing some other Parayanam of Vishnu Sahasranama. All these things are for self-purification and to be one with that as supreme, but not for the purpose of imperialism. You don't violate any law of the land. Our people in America or India, England or anywhere, they don't violate the law of the land. They have absolutely no mandate to violate the law of the land. So then again, when they become powerful, then naturally they will ask for this Sharia law. Then I told about this protracted war, how they capture various social institutions. In fact, if we see the pattern in India also, it is surprising. That is gradually, I mean, slowly when we were young, when we were in the college days, then we started seeing change in the Hindi films. The Hindi films, they were no longer Hindi films, but actually Urdu films. And mostly Urdu. Some Hindustani, in the name of Hindustani, a lot of Urdu was introduced and some sort of fancy, some sort of fascination for that. And slowly and slowly, the Urdu, the lead heroes, the lead actors or heroes, as we call them, they all are from one community. And then the Bombay underworld, they started financing the Bollywood movies. And when the underworld started financing the Bollywood movies, then naturally the narrative also started changing, gradually ridiculing Hinduism. And if you see that film called PK by that fellow Amir Khan, actually so many subtle, in a very subtle way, ridiculing Hinduism. And many of our poor people, very foolishly, they also accepted it. So that is where we are. We come to accept all this ridicule and all that over a period. We also lose our respect for our own tradition. And gradually we feel, oh, this is a better thing. In fact, our thing is so ridiculous. So this is because of ignorance of our own strength. So this is what we have to see. And if we see, we all know that even the education ministers, union ministers for education for a long time, in fact, they only the Muslims were there. And then at that time, the left-wing people, they got entrenched into the education system. And we know what type of books were produced by NCERT. We forgot our own history. And then the whole history was aborted. All these things, slowly and slowly they captured. And unfortunately, these opposition parties, opposition in the sense, all these parties, political parties also, they started yielding to the demands. That is because that community is a very strong vote bank. And when vote bank politics have come into existence, then naturally religion and vote bank has become a very strong weapon in the hands of religion. So that is how they have been coming from, from power to power. They are growing. So that is one thing which we see. And, and if we see the clergy, what about our clergy? Our Purohits or our Swamijis and Shankaracharya or Bhajavar Swami or Ramanujacharya, they don't have any agenda. There is no hierarchy as such. Yes, this is I am in this Pitham. So this is how I have to cover the whole area. There is no hierarchy. So if you go to some Pitham, so that Pitham, that Swamiji, he may be having some people under him, some students under him. He will be teaching, he'll be doing some teaching. And they just move around in a particular area. And they move around in a particular area means they maybe, for example, if you take the Shankaracharyas, they move around in 3-4 states. Similarly, Ramanujacharya, that Vaishnava leader, Vaishnava Acharyas, they also have some territory, they move in their area. But then they don't have a hierarchy. They don't have a hierarchy. They don't appoint people. Like the Pope appoints the bishop in India. The Pope appoints bishop of Kerala, bishop of Hyderabad. All these people, bishops are appointed by them. Such thing has not yet come in Islam, but then the Islam is also having a particular hierarchy, and then they give commands, and then in fact they are much better organized militarily. Militarily, they are much better organized, and we should be really worried about that military potential. So, but then in our case, there is no such thing as hierarchy. Only Swamijis do some sancharam in a particular area. So these are the main points which I wanted to highlight. There are many other differences, but then I can send a note to Akilla Babu Garu. So he may Prabhakar Rao Garu or Babu Garu, so they can circulate. And certainly there one question may arise. When you say that you can worship God, this question is asked by some people. When you say that you can you can follow God in any form, why can't I follow Allah? Or why can't I follow Jesus Christ or Yahweh? So then that question has to be answered. That has to be understood. Okay, if you follow that, then your total freedom of worship is lost. Whatever freedom of worship you are having is lost. You are worshipping this God, or you are worshipping doing some other puja. That is because you are seeing a particular feature. When you are worshipping Hanuman, you are seeing Buddhir, Balam, Yasho, Dhairyam, etc., etc. When you are worshipping Rama, you are seeing all that Vigrahavan Dharma. When you are worshipping Krishna, you are seeing him as a Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum, all that deities also. So that sort of thing is there. So all that freedom is lost if you go to another religion. Then you have to hate others. Not only your freedom is lost, you have to follow one only, and you have to hate all others. Call them as forms of devil. And you have to hate them. You have to call all the non-believers as your enemies. So you are dividing the whole world into believers and non-believers. So, and your total mindset also changes, and you have to convert them. If possible, you have to kill them. All these things are there. All these things follow. So this is the answer which we have to tell, because sometimes our people ask, oh, if all religions are okay, if Hinduism says that you can follow any god, why can't I follow Allah? So if that question is there, then we have to see, you have to tell them very clearly that you are going into a blind alley. You are going into a blind alley. You have to jolly well follow that. You have to jolly well follow that. And if you don't follow that, you can be punished with the death also. If you come out, if any blasphemy, if you having joined that, if you do any blasphemic act, you can be butchered also. So these are the things which we have to tell our kids. And particularly, I request you to buy these books. I am no friend of this Bill Warner. I don't know him at all. But having seen these books, I was so, I felt ashamed that I didn't know all these things for such a long time. So we have to read these things if we have to protect our children from going astray. So with this, I stop. It is now 5 p.m. I'll take some questions, please.
Dhanyavadamulanడి. Now, those who want to ask questions, raise your hands. Anybody wants to ask questions?
Namaste, Arundra Garu. There is a misconception on some of the people that Vedantam is making us too much ahimsa and not to argue or discuss or take the metal to fight. Chatram. So does it say like that? Does it say like that?
Wonderful question. No, not at all. Wonderful question. You see,
Yeah, that is.
you
That is
take the
clarified.
fourth chapter, Gita, fourth chapter. Fourth chapter, the first shloka is Imam Vivaswate Yogam Proktavanaham Avyayam Vivaswan Manave Praha Manu Rikshwakave Abravit. So it goes on like that. And there you read the commentary of Shankaracharya, where he says Krishna is telling this, that he taught this first to Surya. Surya told his son Manu. Manu told Ikshwaku. So in that line, it came down to kings. It all came to kings. It was told for kings. And then Shankaracharya very clearly says, Jagat Palaitrunam Kshatriyanam Baladhanaya. He says, Jagat Palaitrunam Kshatriyanam Baladhanaya, in order to infuse courage in the minds of all these kings. Because what type of courage? Courage to protect dharma, courage to be, do the right thing in a bold manner. So that Vedanta has to give courage. And at the end of, say, Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna did not become a monk. Arjuna did not become a sannyasi. He went and fought. So Vedanta says you do swadharma. When we say, okay, transcend, you don't have hate, advesta, sarvabhutanam, etc., that is all for a seeker and also for an ordinary man, ordinary grihastha. For an ordinary grihastha, yes, advesta, sarvabhutanam, because an ordinary grihastha is not in battle. The only battle he has to do is he has to go and vote for the right party. If he doesn't vote for the right party, then he is not doing his dharma. So in fact, this also we have to tell. So if you have to do dharma, if you have to fight, say Arjuna's swadharma was to go and physically fight. But here there is no question of physical fighting. Here it is only a question of ballot box fighting. So you have to go and vote. So Vedanta, that is the reason why I said there are two levels. For a common man's level, Vedanta says something. And for the seeker, it says something else. For a seeker, it says, yes, you are that Brahma. For and there also, for the seeker also, it says you are the Brahma. But if that man is also doing some job like a king, suppose it's King Janaka, that is the greatest example. King Janaka is example of a wise king. He was Jnani. Having been a Jnani, he is doing it, he is discharging all his kingly duties, all his royal duties. That means he is punishing the bad people, he is rewarding the good people, all these royal duties he is performing. So Janaka, etc., though they were wise, they were doing all these things. So all this karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asthita Janakadaya says, karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asthita, karmana eva samsiddhim asthita. That is, by doing karma, by doing swadharma, they attain moksha. Swadharma is not an obstacle for moksha. Swadharma gives us chitta shuddhi. In that time, at that time for Arjuna, the swadharma was to fight. And for us, the swadharma is to jolly well sensitize all our friends, whomever we know. We have to teach Gita, we have to tell the fundamentals of Gita, and then we have to see that we go and vote for the proper party, not vote some stupid fellows who want to divide the country. So this is what we have to do now. So Vedanta does not make a person meek. Kshatriyanam baladhanaya, that's a wonderful statement which I liked. So it is for encouraging the kings. It is for putting all the courage in the minds of the kings. That is the approach of Vedanta.
Thanks. One more misconception is that the Bhagavad Gita or Vedantam say that yajna kritus are not to be required. It's only just do the puja itself. The Vedanta.
Yeah, that is also not
is
correct.
It against karma kanda?
Yeah, no, it doesn't ignore karma kanda. Karma kanda is very much essential. Karma kanda is very much essential so long as a man is not in that jnana path. Suppose a person wants to renounce and then become a sannyasi and then teach Vedanta, then he can give up karmas. But then karma is not ignored in Vedanta. In fact, even if you are a jnani, you have to do karma. It says sapta karmanya vidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata. That is, just as ignorant people, they do karma. They do karma means for purpose of moksha. Ignorant people, what do? Oh, I want this, I want that. Kamya karma. Karma also, there are different levels of karma. There is a nitya karma, there is a kamya karma. Ignorant people, they do kamya karma. I want this, I want that, I want this. Of course, human nature is to be ambitious, to achieve things, etc., etc. So, but then that is not, a seeker, he is asked to avoid that kamya karma. He is asked to do his nitya karma. And war also is a nitya karma. And then, but then a jnani also does his nitya karma. For example, Lord Krishna, nobody says that Krishna was not a Jnani. We all have to accept that Krishna was a Jnani. So, but what did Krishna do? So he said, Name Kartha, Parthasti Kartavyam, Trishu Lokeshu Kinchana. Oh Partha, Name Parthasti Kartavyam. I have no duty, or rather, I am not bounden to do anything. But then I am doing it for the sake of others. Why? Yadyad acharati shreshtas tattvadevetaro janaha. Whatever a great man does, all other people follow. And Jnani also has to do karma for loka sangraha. There is an idea called loka sangraha. That is lokasya unmarga pravrutti nivaranam loka sangraha. The commentators write lokasya unmarga pravrutti nivaranam. That is, if a good man does not do, suppose we are all elderly people, suppose we don't do karma, we don't do sandhyavandana, then naturally my grandson also will not do. So in order to put him on the right track, I have to do Sandhyavandana. I have to also do Devatarchana. I do Devatarchana. For example, we are all asked to do what is called Panchayatana Puja. We have got some Panchayatana. My family deity is Narsimha Swami. So Narsimha Swami, that Narsimha Salagrama, I have it in the middle. And then all around I have other deities. So again, we are not supposed to discriminate. We are not supposed to discriminate. See that Narsimha Swami is that is Sarva Devatmaka, and then worship. So, but the worship, ritual, etc., they are not at all rejected in Vedanta. That we can we have to very clearly say. And this Karma Yoga very clearly says it. And this performance of the duties, Swadharma, gives Chitta Shuddhi. Chitta Shuddhi, which is essential for the next phase called Jnana Nishtha. That is what Vedanta says.
Dhanyawad. Namaskar.
Okay, we will take one question from chat box. We see that due to ever-increasing Muslim population, the political power will go to them in near future, and that will start Islamization of India. What should we do to stop it?
Yeah, we have to sensitize as many voters as possible. That is the reason why in all meetings also I tell we have to vote. We have to vote. There is no way. If you don't vote, then you will have to come out with all our knives and daggers after some time, after a few years. If we don't vote now, then somebody comes on our house. Then we have to take out some kitchen knife, whatever knives we have, and then go and fight to our capacity. So if we want to avoid it, now we have to vote. If we don't vote now, we are gone. So that is what is very essential.
Okay, we'll have one speaker asking question. Sai Chand Dwadasi.
Namaskaram, sir.
Namaste.
Sir, when you were speaking, you said something called law of the land. Can you please elaborate it for me? And I have one more thing. Maybe it's non-related, but yeah, if for example, if we think Hinduism is in crisis, our constitution mainly said like it is a non-religious way of interpretation. I feel so. So if something came to crisis, because Bharat is the only country we have for Hindus. So why can't we, is there any chance to make that Hinduism is the our main religion? Because what we see European countries or American country, whatever is there, they are all clearly following Christianity is our main religion. So in that way, why can't? And one more thing is, if converting a person in religion into some other religion forcefully, why can't they treat it as an offense? Why can't they impose some law? For example, if we have something called SC/ST atrocity cases, they will impose. If something we on the upper people, but in that way, why can't they consider it as an offense? And is there any possibility?
Asked me 3 questions. 1 minute. I will forget all that. You have asked me 3 questions.
Yes,
one is the law of the land. By law of the land, I mean the constitution. Law of the land, I mean the constitution of India, and all other laws which are framed in the light of that constitution of India. Constitution of India gives a general direction and then gives a general mood. That is all the fundamental principles and then fundamental rights, etc. All these things. Then, and also directive principles, etc. Then all other things like IPC, CRPC, etc., they are all under the light of that Constitution of India. Any law which is enacted has to be in the light of Constitution. Otherwise, it will be again questioned in the court of law, and then they will say it is what is this ultra virus constitution, they say. So that is law of the land means constitution and all the liberties which are given. Then the second question is, why are we not able to enforce? Why are we not able to make it, make Hinduism as the main thing? So that we lost a chance. In fact, 70 years ago, all our great leaders like Gandhi, Nehru, etc., and they were so, I think we should say that they were absolutely mindless, or they were actually vainglorious. They were basking in their own great glory. And Gandhi was thinking that he was a great Mahatma. And if I give my head, I am becoming a Mahatma. That is what he said. In fact, Ananda Ranganathan's videos, if we see, he very clearly quotes where exactly Gandhi said all these things. So somebody is okay. Let if they are killing, let them kill us. If they kill us, they will establish their rule, and then there will be peace. So that is what Gandhi says. If we have such people at that critical time, then how can we do that? Now we are in a very critical stage where unless most of the Hindus they come together, all the Hindus come together, and then how can they come together unless they have knowledge? Only knowledge alone will give us strength. If we don't have knowledge, even now, I have my own problem with convincing my own friends and then my own relatives. I have got all these liberal people in my own, among my own relatives. My own relatives say, no, Nehru was such a great man. And then all these BJP fellows, they are all creating communal. Who is communal? First thing is, who is communal? There is one fellow who is saying, I am having all truth. My religion is the only true religion. And you have to follow, all of you have to follow that. So is he communal? Or BJP, which is trying to protect a very great noble civilization, noble tradition, which says, oh, you worship any deity, which gives all freedoms. In fact, our religion is giving so many freedoms, all liberty, equality, etc., and all this inclusiveness, all these things. It is not because of Gandhi or Nehru. It is not because of Gandhi or Nehru that we are having these principles. It is because of our Vedanta. Vedanta has given these principles of equality, oneness. And among 100 people, you have to see oneness, it says. In the Bhagavad Gita, that 17th chapter or 18th, Satvika Drushti. Satvika Drushti is Avibhaktam Vibhakteshu. Tad Jnanam Vidhi Satvikam. That is, even among the multitude, you see oneness. And if you see divisions, that is Rajasa. And to say that, yeah, I alone am right, that is foolhardy thing. That is what is called tamasa. So what is called, the word jnanam is defined at 3 levels: satvika jnanam, rajasa jnanam, and tamasa jnanam. So our religion, it does not say, no, we are the only people. So that is the reason why they have taken advantage. As I said, it is like a protracted war. Their policy, their religion is like a protracted war. And in this protracted war, slowly and slowly, they will try to aggrandize themselves. And when they reach a critical stage, then naturally they will show all the ugly phase continues. Before that, we can only check them by vote. There is no other way. And we have to sensitize all fellow Hindus. Whatever possible, we have to sensitize all fellow Hindus. And each man here, each person sitting here has to be a teacher. We have to study some basics of Vedanta. And we should know that Hinduism speaks at 2 levels, and we should avoid arguments. Suppose somebody comes and says, no, Krishna danced with so many gopikas. How do you are having 16,000 wives? We can't defend all those things. That is a Purana. It is told for the level of a common man. You come to the point. You come to the point and tell about your doctrine. What does your doctrine say? And then, okay, Rama shot an arrow from behind a tree. So then you have to explain the entire Ramayana to that fellow. So we should refuse to speak at the level of Purana. We should we should know what is there in our doctrine, and the doctrine has to be taught to, first of all, to our own kids, and then to our friends and all those people. So we have to sensitize a lot many people. There is no other way. Maybe by various WhatsApp groups, and then so many Facebook, whatever, all this social media, we have to use it. Third question I forgot. You asked another question also. Okay, if you also have forgotten, that's fine.
I think he wants to unmute. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I was muted by the host. I said the third question is like, if we are seeing that forceful conversions of the religions, is there any possibility to bring any ordinance kind of impose kind of thing, a law impose? Yeah. It is a principle of
law. Some sort of weak law is there in some states. Some states have enacted. but then enforcement is not very good. That is the situation. In case the present government comes into power with a larger majority and then larger strength in various places, maybe some sort of law can be enacted. But the government is doing its best to protect our civilization, number one. If our civilization is protected, our country's integrity is protected. We have to see that it is not as though we are trying to protect some foolish civilization. We are trying to protect one very, very noble civilization, which is the only noble civilization on earth. All of the fellows, they say, no, I only have to be there. We are the only people who say, yes, all of us, you see divinity in everybody. No religion says it. So we are trying to protect a very noble civilization. And that is what the government also is trying to do. And when so long as we are in a majority, this country will be there. When we become minority, this country will again be broken, because the entire powers of the world, all the Western powers, already like in Manipur, they swing into action. They all, not only Western powers, China is there on one side. We have got so many enemies. They want to dismember India. They want to break India. So unless we as Indians, we educate lot many fellow Indians and then see that we all support a particular group, there is no future for India.
Okay. Can you show that book again? I want to take a pic of that. Okay.
It is by Bill Warner, B-I-L-L, Bill, W-A-R-N-E-R, Bill Warner. We have to read these books. Otherwise, we will not be able to know what Islam says. Because Islam has got two levels of teaching. One is the Quran, the portions of Quran which were told in Mecca. So that is so long, he was there in Mecca for about 15 years. After he became a prophet, after he declared himself a prophet, he was there for about 15 years. And in that 15 years, so the message from God was slightly gentle. So there are certain gentle surahs. And then the second, when he went to Medina, when he was driven out of Mecca and when he went to Medina, then he started adopting violent tactics. From that time, Islam never looked back. So after he went to Medina, the tone of Quran changes. So in Quran, you find two types of sayings. One saying says, no, if you are killing one man, you are killing the entire humanity. Such sayings are also there. That is the earlier portion of Quran. The next portion of Quran is very, very ruthless. And it is the later portion which has to be accepted. That is also there according to their own tradition. It is not the first thing which has to be accepted, the later portion. But the first thing is quoted in debates and discussions. Oh, Quran is so nice, they say. So we have to know what Quran is. We have to see the two levels of Quran. And the earlier phase and also the later phase. So for that, we have to surely we have to read this book called, this Life of Prophet Muhammad. It is there in the Amazon. Luckily, we are getting it in India also. I bought these things in America about 2 years ago, but then they are available in India also. There, you can get all these books in India.
There are 2-3 people waiting, but we will take one question only or one speaker.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Chakravarti.
Sir, namaste.
Namaste.
Mr. To all, listening to your great lecture. Like you, in one of the eminent personalities, in his speech, he has mentioned a book called Muhammad, a psychological biography of Allah's Prophet by Ali Sina.
That also is good.
Yes, sir.
That is also good. I have not read it.
Luckily, I
have heard
the link from him and I read it. In fact, when you read it, you will afraid to feel how the religion was found and what kind of laws they are following. So, and it's also available in Amazon, just only to share with after listening to you. That's it.
Correct. Ali Sinha is also a writer. We have to read that book also.
Yes, sir.
In fact, some other people also have written. For example, there is another gentleman called Robert Spencer, or Robert Spencer, S-P-E-N-C-E-R Spencer. He has written about jihad, history of jihad, and he has also written Prophet Muhammad's life. I have not read them, but I am told they are very good.
But in fact, this Prophet Muhammad, suffering with a psychological disorder from childhood, being an orphan, his entire psychological behavior and the biography, everything mentioned in that book, how the Quran quoted and prepared and everything by his acts and deeds of violence and everything. So just I want to share that's it, listening to your lecture.
Very nice. So there was a comment in the chat box. That is, minorities are only 10% according to records. It's not so. Minorities are roughly 20%. Islam itself is about 20%. Latest, say, what is this census? And Christianity, they are not very sure because many of them are in the guise of Hindus. So we are not very sure. But Islam, we are sure they are around 20, maybe between 18 and 20%. Very, very critical stage now for Hindus.
Can we just take one chance to Raghunathan? He wants to speak.
Yeah, sure. One question, please.
Yeah, Raghunathan, please.
Raghunathan, okay.
Unmute him.
I'm unmuting everybody so that he can unmute. Unmute Raghunathan ji.
Raghunathan ji, unmute and talk. Okay, give it to somebody then.
Okay. Sudhaji.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes,
Can
please.
you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
My question is, what is one single reason for 1,000 years of subjugation?
Sorry?
What is one single reason for 1,000 years of subjugation of our beliefs?
Yeah, we can't go into all those things now because we have to recount so many reasons. We have to recount so many reasons.
Next lecture we'll take that.
Okay.
So there is no use also.
Okay.
There is no use also. We have to think about what we have to do now.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, madam.
Yeah, I'm
Please
Dr.
tell me.
B. Sudha, retired Vice Principal and Associate Professor of English, sir. So don't consider me as a rebellion because I'm asking this question. I'm also born into a very traditional Orthodox Abrahamic family. But I feel that, because of the pluralism you have mentioned at two levels, the ordinary level and the higher level, that is creating a lot of confusion amongst the common people. And, they're unable to reach to that level. And they find that the other religions are more convenient and more liberal. They're giving them a dignity. And that's the reason why they are turning towards those religions. How do we address it, sir? I have a feeling that, can't we simplify our rules and can't we, because it's so strict, even our Sanskrit language and our culture and the doctrine, everything is so strict. Can't we make it, reachable to the ordinary people so that, we can sustain it and we all can be together?
I think the fundamental point you said is not correct. That is, they are very strict, you said. Language may be strict. Language in the sense, the Sanskrit language may be strict in the sense, language may be different. Let me say, language may be slightly difficult, but then there is absolute liberty in Hinduism only. There is no liberty in other places. If you go to other place, you have to call all other people as devils. If you have to call all other gods as devils. These are the fundamental things which we have to know. If we don't know, then that's a problem. If you accept any other religion, then you have to call all other people as non-believers. You have to hate other people, and you have got all the powers to kill them. God's mandate to kill them. All that is not there in Hinduism. This is the first point we have to tell. This is the first point we have to tell is. And you said the language is very simple, etc. It is not simple. Their language is maybe simple. That is very simply, he is saying you go and kill. You go and take all the women as sex slaves. And this particularly the women have to know that. Particularly the women have to know what is the treatment of women in Islam. And that you see from the life of Prophet Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
And what are the people who come and then give a rosy picture of Islam? They may quote something from the earlier portions of Quran where some good statements are there. But what is Islam in practice? What have they done to the to the society? So all these things we have to see. So as you said, the fact that there are two levels of teaching is not known to many people. we have to tell them. We have to tell them the basic
Yes,
thing we
sir.
have to tell is, it is at two levels. At the higher level, this is the truth. At a lower level, you are given all the freedom to follow any god. It is not as though we are fools to worship so many gods. We are worshipping because each god is associated with one particular quality, one particular divine thing which we have to follow or we have to cultivate. So that is the reason why we have, and we have not killed them all. Whereas in all of the places they have ruthlessly killed and destroyed. There is no music, there is no devotional music, there is no devotional arts like dance, etc. Absolutely. So all these things we have to tell our people.
Sir, maybe because of this
Okay.
newfound
We'll close.
liberty,
We'll
they are
close
just
now.
those religions.
Now,
They
And
say,
I'll answer.
they say that, no, they say that their religion is giving all liberty. It is not liberty. In the name of liberty, they are driving into, the moment a girl goes, after a couple of years, she has to be in a burqa. Otherwise,
Yes,
the
sir.
Maulvi will come and beat her. So these are things which we have to tell our people.
Yeah, no, we have to bring in a lot of awareness and spread the message, sir. And that's
Yeah,
what
that
we
is the
do.
basic problem. That is
I
the
mean, to
basic
the
problem.
common people, intellectuals already know about it. Now, my concern is for the ordinary people, sir, because those are the
Yeah,
people who are
exactly.
turning towards other religions.
That is the reason why we have to read. In fact, I have written books on that, how to tell Hinduism, to teach Hinduism to your child. You may see it on YouTube, not YouTube, how to teach Hinduism to your child. I have not got it readily. So that is printed by MSCO books. In fact, I have given thousands of books freely to people. Very recently also, I wrote one book, Bhagavad Gita for a modern student. I have given hundreds of books freely. So how to teach Hinduism to your child is one book which is published by MSCO. So there I have given all these points. Every parent has to read it.
Yes, sir.
okay, sir. Thank you. I think
Yes,
now
So
we
I
have
think
done lot
I'll
of
take
time.
leave.
Let
I'll
us
take
close
leave.
now. Pradhana.
I'll take leave. Now I will leave. Kindly continue the meeting
Om
because I
Sahana
have to leave
Vavatu
because I have to.
Sahana Upanaktu Saha Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitam Astuma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet Om Shanti 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 Satyam Vada Dharmanchara Sarve Jana Sukno Bhavantu Shri Krishnarpanamastu Idanamama. Janaganamana.
Thank you. Let us recite Janaganamana. All of you, please stand up and then sing. Janaganamana Adhinayaka Jaya He Bharata Bhagya Vidata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Uttara Vanga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Jaladi Taranga
Jage Tavasu
Shishamage Gahe Tava Jaya Gada Janagana Mangaladayaka Jaya He Bharata Bhagya Vidata Jaya He Jaya He Jaya He Jaya 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 He Jai Hind.
Jai Jai.
Okay, now let us stop recording.